Crane on a crane. Oh, yeah. Okay, so I've spent a couple hours tonight playing this game, and as I'm playing it, like all these amazing memories are flooding back of all these really cool set pieces and moments and yeah, real like fun missions. Even the side missions are fun. And I started cross-referencing that with like side quests and main missions that you find in Dying Light 2. And to be honest, I have seen videos that talk about the differences between Dying Light 1 and Dying Light 2. And I want to have like a serious discussion here. This is not me dumping on Dying Light 2. It's actually one of my favorite things to do. Even though, again, I don't hate the game, it's actually improving. I'm happy to see that. But there is something I noticed about this game you don't really see a whole lot of people talking about in terms of how it differs from the second game. When I think of all the moments this game puts Crane in these very claustrophobic, atmospheric, semi-dungeons, dealing with zombies, and you cross-reference that to moments where Aiden kind of gets put in these claustrophobic semi-dungeons with human enemies. Very often, whether we're talking about side quests and main story beats, I cannot help but notice that because I had made the claim that Dying Light 2 is it's like more of a generic action game with some zombies in it. And then you got Dying Light here that has these really cool moments that remind you it's still clinging to its zombie roots. So it's more of like an action zombie game or an action horror game where the zombies are up front and center. They are the main threat in this world. So much so that you can go on the streets, find Rise's men, engage with them, and you will notice, and I've seen this and I've recorded this several times, you'll notice that if there are a bunch of zombies moving in, they will automatically see those zombies as the immediate threat because they are a threat. They are a threat in this world. And I love how the game uses the zombies as the immediate threat. So much so, even the human enemies in this game recognize them as a threat, whereas in the second game, you'll be running down the street, renegades or bandits. There's so many times where, yes, the zombies might respond to them, but the game it's got them programmed that they always, no matter what, human or zombie, will always try to come after you. And this world feels so much more organic. It feels very much like a zombie outbreak simulator. And like, yeah, so like Dying Light has this issue where it's not an issue. It was on purpose. There's a reason why so many major moments in that story pit you against human enemies. And in this game, it pits you against situations, very creepy, very dark situations involving zombies. Because Dying Light is trying to was doesn't seem like it right now, but it does seem to be pushing more toward an action-based game, and it's not strong enough to do that. So you'll have videos that will sit there and they will try to compare parkour to parkour, combat to combat, but they don't talk about like the mashed potatoes and gravy of it. How this game is very much a zombie game, and Dying Light 2, for too long, mind you, was just a generic action game where you were constantly fighting human enemies. So, yeah, that's a huge difference. Now, it may, like, parkour and combat may come down to preference. Well, I think Dying Light 2 is better because I like the parkour in that game more. Well, there's two versions of the parkour in that game. There's the parkour system that was with the release of it, which took me forever to master because Aiden was so. People said floaty, but I felt like it was not as responsive as Crane was. And it took me a while to learn parkouring in that game because I was just falling off all kinds of stuff because it felt like Aiden doesn't respond fast enough to like my input. And then they decided to make parkour seem a little bit more like the parkour in this game, but still sometimes Aiden doesn't he's grabbing stuff I'd rather him not grab. And when he's climbing stuff, sometimes he's not really responding to my commands the way I want him to. Combat in that game also it's still the same way. Sometimes Aiden is not responding to input. And in this game, like Crane is super responsive. Like you put in a command and it's almost like he's already thinking about doing it before you even press that button sometimes. I love it. So yeah, but I mean, you could say in terms of quest design that there are the GRE quarantine zones, the dungeons where you go look for the inhibitors. But again, we're talking about like that is a forced situation. Techland forced that situation on themselves. When Crane is out there parkouring and combating, he's gaining levels, experience, and when he reaches a certain milestone, then he learns a new skill because he's out there parkouring. Like the more he parkours, the more he combats, the better he gets at it. And it's a very simplistic system. In Dying Light 2, Aiden can technically learn like parkour and like he gets parkour and combat points too, but ultimately he doesn't get to level up until he goes out of his way into those GRE dungeons, which is where you get that zombie experience. Because you have to have the zombie meth, the inhibitors, right? You have to have that. You can't. It's there's no direct connection between Aiden's experience and the things he unlocks. Aiden has to go find these inhibitors, and it creates a very complicated system. Just like the inventory. Like I'm looking at these blueprints, right? Like just look at my like inventory, for example. Firecrackers. Here's a great example: firecrackers and medkits, and bombs, right? So once Crane learns how to make firecrackers and medkits and bombs, you know, they're just kind of their effectiveness is generic. It's very stagnant. There's no need to upgrade this stuff because Crane's getting more powerful. They're just there. They'll always be there. Grant you, maybe you do have to use a few more medkits, right? But Crane's the way he makes medkits and the way he heals himself, it's so fast. Like his healing abilities are they're faster than they used to be. Like with Aiden, like I hate to say used to be, but I'm thinking about like from Dying Light 2 to Dying Light 1, but like it takes so long for Aiden to wrap that bandage around his wrist. And it seems like the healing abilities in this game are a lot faster, but it's so weird because you know he gets faster rapping, you know, when you're upgrading this med kit, and everything needs to be upgraded 9 freaking times, right? So yeah, but the main idea is that going back and revisiting this story, you can say what you want about the story. I think the story was good, and I think it was good because it had so much inspiration from those old, like George Romero zombie movies. some cliche stuff in here, just like it was in those movies. Like it makes you feel like you're in one of those old 1980s action movies, late 90s action movies, and there's such a charm to it. Even Rise, as annoying as he is that classic Hollywood villain. A lot of people compare him to Voz because Angry Joe did, and so everybody wants to parakeet that. Rise doesn't, to me, he does come off as just like one of these chaotic, neutral bad guys who's always like trying to spit some philosophical shit like in some James Bond movie. But yeah, the mission structure in this game is a lot different. And it almost always puts you in a very creepy situation that you're having to get through to do your objective. And it's gonna involve zombies. Very well done zombies, I might say. Like they don't just always go for you. They go for the closest thing with a pulse. And you see that often on the streets of Haran. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, you don't see a whole lot of people talking about, like, you'll see them talk about parkour versus parkour, combat versus combat, and they might make connect like comparisons between stories, but they never really talk about the structure of the side missions and how the side missions always find these clever ways of putting you in claustrophobic situations with a large number of zombies compared to Dying Light 2, where Aiden is constantly stuck in these close quarters with human enemies. It's like the dev team that made this game wanted to make a zombie experience, and the dev team that made Dying Light 2 wanted to create some Mad Max sort of parkour slash melee game without all the cool driving that you would expect in a Mad Max game, right? So, yeah, anyway, yeah, that's just something I was thinking about while I was playing this today, and just yeah, you don't see a whole lot of people talk about like how this game is very much zombie oriented. So it's very much still a zombie game. And then Dying Light 2 comes along and maybe they'll fix that. Maybe they'll, like they said, they're going to be bringing side missions, like actual side missions into Dying Light 2. Maybe they'll feel more reminiscent of the activities that you do when you're playing Crane in this game. That would be awesome to see. I would love to see more Dying Light in Dying Light 2. I think a lot of people would love to see that, right? Um, yeah, yeah, that's I don't know if there's anything else. And of course, dealing with human enemies in this game is actually pretty freaking easy. Like you have guns in this game, so you just like blow their brains out, get them out of your hair. So they're not a nuisance. They are a threat because they got guns too. So like when Dying Light finally introduces guns in the game, I'm gonna be like the second game, I'm gonna be very curious. Like, are you like this special snowflake that gets a gun? You know? Are you the one that gets a gun in the game and like everything else is just helpless against you? Or do human enemies actually get guns? I'd like to see them pull that off. Like, I feel like they were hiding a lot when they took guns out of Dying Light 2. They were hiding some shortcomings with the game. I don't know. I have a feeling it's gonna be a sight to see when you pick up your first real gun in Dying Light 2. See how it actually helps you, how it affects the world. I mean, if they add guns in the game, I'll probably be a lot warmer to it because then I can just blow the brains out of every renegade in my face. Because I don't play zombie games to fight humans all the frickin' time. I play like if I wanted a Far Cry game, I'd play a Far Cry game. I have a couple favorites. I'd go play them. Then I'd just fight humans. But when I'm playing a zombie game, I want to fight zombies. I want to be put in situations where I have to deal with zombies. And most of the time in Dying Light 2, if you want to deal with zombies, you got to go out on the streets and pick a fight with a bunch of zombies because the game doesn't give you a whole lot of story content that puts you in those compromising positions quite like the first game did with Crane. Anyway, that's all I got for now. You all have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening, and I will catch you on the flip side.